Hello and welcome to Commendable Commotion, where the creative arts intersect with parapolitics and true crime. Earlier today, I was looking through my hard drive and I found an interview I did with two filmmakers all the way back in January 2024. It was with Vinnie Vineyard and Luke Walker, who have written and directed several horror and comedy movies being shown on streaming platforms. I listened to the interview and I was really fascinated. They told me some brilliant advice for aspiring independent filmmakers, and I really thought I should upload the interview so that you can all hear what they have to say. In particular, they give advice on things like film distribution and writing original content. My own documentary, Mothman, the film that never was, is coming out very, very soon. Hearing Luke and Vinny's words of wisdom reminded me genuinely of my own journey making that particular spooky picture. So, without further ado, here we go. First thing, as a matter of fact, that I'd like to ask you both is, obviously just, very generally, how did you both get into what you do now, filmmaking, getting them distributed, your projects? How'd you go about doing that, both of you together?
Well, we both of us were professional wrestlers, and I started back in 1994. Funkmaster V, Vinnie Vineyard, over there, he started, I think, in 2000, and um, we didn't know each other up until about 2012. But like what we're both known for is for talking, for cutting promos, for entertaining the crowd, and somehow that led to us getting a TV show, we were talking smack about this local TV show, wrestling TV show, and the guy was like, "Hey, why don't you come and think if you could do better?" So we showed up and we're like, "Yeah, we could do better," and so we got the place shut down in 6 months.
We got
Um,
fired, but we had a great time, and we actually made some really freaking great
yeah,
television. It's
yeah.
just we're down in Tennessee, and some of these guys just don't know.
But we
They
were
had a
known
hard time.
we're really, I mean, Vinny was exceptionally known for how he would record videos and skits and things, and we got together and we started recording skits against each other, and then we started working together. And from that wrestling TV show that was on Fox Network, um, we actually started doing our own paranormal show. I don't know, that was a long transfer, and we're doing the paranormal show for about 3 or 4 years when COVID hit and nobody was making movies, and we always wanted to make movies. So we just were
You
like, hey,
did.
yeah.
Luke wanted to make the movies. I was like, I'm the editor. I don't want to edit no damn movie. But when I heard over the wire, me and Luke were standing there, and it was like Hollywood shut down. I looked up at him. I said, "This is our chance here." I said, "This is," and so making movies since then has kind of been what we've really focused on.
Yeah,
And
Cool.
and he
had
was
we
he
had
was right.
but we had a lot of like our paranormal show was, signed and green lit and red lit on networks for basically a good better part of about 4 or 5 years. We had talent deals and producing deals and all these different deals that we had, and it was just like you'd sign the deal and then you'd never hear from the people again. So we really did not want to, if we're going to make movies and our own TV show, we didn't want to work with the corporate structure because they just, all they did was take time and it had no
Waste time,
communication.
baby.
Yeah,
Waste
that's all it
time.
did.
Yeah.
Waste time. And we're like, if somebody doesn't want to pay us to make a movie and to tell a story, we'll just do it ourselves, and we'll do it the way we want to instead of how they want us to.
Well,
Like I
and
said, for the paranormal stuff, with the paranormal TV show, is like they wanted me to play up that I used to be a police officer, and I'm like, dude, that life is long gone. They wanted us to, not be so funny, and I'm like, but that's our gig. That's what we do. That's our, it said if people like us, other because we're funny, not because we're handsome, which we are. But
it's
yeah, I mean, there were
eye of the
so many deals.
beholder.
Yeah. And then I think the last straw before we signed, or before we decided to make our own movies, was we had developed a show for Netflix that was called Freaky Finds, where we were gonna go
What's the
around
name of
America
it?
and yeah, we're going to go around America and
Forgot
kind of
about that.
find these strange artifacts. And we know some kind of famous people, and that were in certain roles of movies, and we're going to try to find the props that some of the props. It sounded like a good idea. And then the producers, they signed some producers to the show who came down and said, well, why don't you instead, we'll sit around the radio and listen to Swap Shop, where they sell Levi jeans and baseball hats, and you guys can go out and buy Levi jeans and baseball
Well,
hats. We're like, all right, yeah, we're not doing anything with Netflix ever.
well, the concept was just because the original concept, we had a guy that was a former outlaw. Like, I don't know if you guys know what those are, but they're like outlaw biker gangs, kind of out. They,
Yeah.
People talk about the Hells Angels, but the outlaws are like the real deal. We had a guy like that who was into oddities, like you would used to see it like old carnivals, like two-headed babies and stuff like that in jars, weird crap. And then we were a part of it. But Luke's absolutely right. They said, hey, this is in Tennessee. And Howard Stern used to call this the swap shop, which people used to sit around the radio. And I guess in some parts they still do. I don't know. But people would listen. It was like before Craigslist and eBay and stuff. People would be like, yeah, I got 700 pairs of irregular sized Levi's. And I mean, it was like, so we're going to make a show that asks human beings that there are like 7 or 8 teams, because they were going to do it like Destination or what's the fishing show, or Deadliest Catch or something like that, where all these teams are around a region listening to this crackling radio in the year 2021. And it was like, our livelihood depends on like baby chickens and an Elvis record, and like,
Yeah.
what? Like, people
Yeah,
are
and
going to like mobilize and try to negotiate
yeah,
buying
we are creative guys, but we're also idiots. We're very given to self-deprecation, especially in humor. We like to, we're willing to do weird stuff, but I do not want to be known as the guy that bought a Mickey Mouse clock off of, competing against another team to go buy a Mickey Mouse. That's not who. I'd rather not be known
it
than
was
known as
dumb.
that guy.
It was
Yeah.
pretty insipid, man. And it was like, and TV is just getting harder and harder to watch. And we were just like, let's get out of that stuff. I'm sorry, Lenny Kravitz. I don't know if you guys know who Lenny Kravitz is, but he's always, hey man, I'm on the air. Yeah, I'll talk to you. I know Lisa Bonet still looks good. All right. After Jason Mimosa broke up with Lisa Bonet, Lenny's been calling me out of the blue. I apologize like crazy. I don't know what to tell the guy. He's a good looking fella. He needs to
Don't worry.
get over that. It's been like 15 years now.
No,
But yeah, so I mean, like what Luke is saying is, we just decided, why not do the crap ourselves? And we've been lucky, and COVID was awful for millions of people. But it was good for us in the sense that it gave us an opportunity.
yeah. Now you do hear stories about that from that dreadful period of time, but I'm just wondering, like, you mentioned that you'd sign the deal, then you'd never hear from them again with some of these people. I'm just wondering, so from what it sounds like, it wasn't literally that they would just not get back to you ever again, kind of a situation. It was more that, so that happened as well. It wasn't just that you didn't want to go along with them. It was literally.
No. For most of the deals we signed, it was like they were like, all right, hurry up, get this, get me, record this for me, record that for me. I need this headshots, I need these contracts signed, I need this, I need, we need you to make this phone call when you do that. And then we're like, all right, cool, everything's there. And then it's like 2 of the companies, the production companies that had assigned to it, we didn't hear from them forever. And then we found out that both of them went out of business. And we were supposed to be developing a TV show for TV shows for History Channel, Travel Channel, all this stuff, and they
Destination America.
Yeah, but then another thing, a couple of them did was they took our ideas and gave them to established teams and never talked to us again, or established TV shows and never talked to us again. So it was just, I mean, we realized us coming from the world of professional wrestling understand what's called a work, where you're working the crowd, you're working the people, you're working the other guys to get paid and get, get over and get your spot in the position. And that's what they were doing. and we were like, we're not going to be worked by these
Yeah.
production companies anymore.
Yeah, it's a, you know, Cat Williams just had this huge interview where he 3 hours he was on Shannon Sharp. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that over there, but he basically drugged not only people's reputations, but he drugged the business, you know, like he was basically just calling everybody out. And he is self-made, and he doesn't have to do anything that he's asked to do. And that's Luke and I's always, no matter what genre of whatever we decide to get into, we've always wanted to be self-made. Now, again, we haven't had the financial success of Cat Williams. However, I've never had to wear a dress on camera or do
Without
anything.
wanting to.
Well, I mean, yes, I've always written that in every script. But like nobody told me to do it. No, but it's like we've done whatever we wanted to do, and that's also freeing because Luke and I, you know, we want to create content that is probably not, you know, in this day and age, a lot of studios wouldn't pass off on some of the stuff because we get pretty. We're from the '90s, man. I mean, we're Generation X, so we're hard to offend, and what makes us laugh is different than what makes people laugh now.
Any
So,
examples you can give? It sounds kind of intriguing, to be honest with you. Just, you know.
well, like one of our movies is religious in nature. However, it's a vile movie because I wrote that one in particular, and Luke co-directed it with me, and we both starred in it with a ton of friends, and it's one of our most heralded movies, and it's about Jesus and it's about God and the church and all this stuff, but I mean it's also got blood and boogers and butts and a guy who
Boobs.
screwed, yeah, boobs. Did I say boobs? I always normally start everything off with the boobs, but it's you know, a guy had sex with a goat, and I mean there's all sorts of stuff like that. So I mean it's like
Well,
it's probably it's not for the religious folks, and it, you know, but they seem to like it, and because they see the spirit of what we the spirit of the movie, and even like atheists who are like vitriolic atheists, they like the movie too, even though it kind of has a schmaltzy ending,
well, and
because
we're
it's
also big.
crass. I mean,
Yeah, we're also big fans of 80s and early 90s movies. Uh, and people always say, oh, you couldn't make those movies today. And we're like, sure we can. You know, it's like, you know, Clerks wouldn't be made today because it's got subject matter. Blazing Saddles couldn't be made today because it's got this subject matter. They even said that movies like 40-Year-Old Virgin couldn't get made today. And I'm like, didn't that get made today? That came out 20 years ago, apparently. But
yeah,
but we're the kind of guys that, you know, you tell us we can't do something, we're gonna, you know, then we're gonna kind of amp that up a little bit. And you know, said, and you know, with today's age, with kind of the woke Hollywood, we wouldn't fit in there because, you know, we don't try to pander to drag queen. You know, like we have a friend Demetra that's a drag queen, so we don't pander to the world by putting Dimitri in the movie. We put Dimitri in the movie because it's funny or it's part of the narrative of the story. Uh, Camp Smokey, our latest movie, that is just on streaming services now. There is a salacious lesbian scene in it, and most of movies you see, it has to be artistically done. It has to be, you know, you have to be you know, sensitive to this and that. And we were just like out in the middle of the woods going, all right, do that. But the way we edited it, and because it was salacious to be salacious, because we're making fun of the tropes of 80s movies and horror movies. But you know, Vinny ruins it in editing. You know, like as soon as you get like, oh yeah, there we are, then he just puts a different scene in the middle that just goes, oh really? Like it's usually my face, or
yeah,
yeah. But you
ruins
know
the
that
boner.
we did, you know, and it's like we're not trying to go for the shock value of it, and that we don't go for pandering, we don't go for shock value, we don't go for representation, we don't go for any of that stuff, because we believe that you have to allow those things to breathe. For something to be normal, you have to not mention it. For something to be normal, you know, one of my favorite scenes in Camp Smokey is a fight scene I have with my friend Tim Smiley. Tim Smiley happens to be a black guy, but we don't say, hey, black guy. But it was funny that he's the first person I killed in the movie. And one of the tropes of horror movies is the black guy dies first. But then we didn't realize that when we're filming it out in the.
Oh, let him watch it. Let him watch that. But like what he's saying, man, is we're all about people of color, people of any sort of gender, women leading them. Women are the strongest characters in our movies, but it's the narrative allows that. I think in Hollywood, I think what's really gross about movies right now is we're going to be in 10 to 15 years from now, we're going to look back at this period of time, and these are going to be regarded as some of the worst movies because things weren't naturally or story driven. Everything in there, it's like people are trying to preach one thing or the other. And I'm not saying left wing or right wing. I'm just saying there's a lot of preaching going on. It's like Baptist Sunday morning. And it's like, hey, Star Wars was a female. The baddest ass character in Star Wars was always Princess Leia. I mean, if you go through, we don't need it forced down one way or the other. It's the wrong flavor. You know what I mean? It's just, it's don't preach. Let the story move. And that's kind of, even though we make low budget, campy comedies, I think it's important for the story to be the story and to leave the preaching somewhere else. Because people want to have fun. People want to have fun. Yeah. They don't want to be preached at.
And what I see now is there's a lot of, you have to have the strong heroine, the strong female character, and you have to emasculate the male characters around her. Like in the movie The Marvels, you have Samuel L. Jackson, who is supposedly the super spy of the world, is playing a cat sitter bumbling fool. But in the way we write movies and the way we start writing movies is we deal with the assets around us, what we have, what actresses we have, what people we have, what situations, what locations, and what we asset wise, what we have is a bunch of strong women. All the women that hang out with us are just naturally strong, smart, independent women. And the guys we're all knuckleheads. We're creative, but we're all idiots, so that's it's not written in the movie for the guys to be idiots and the women to be the smart ones, because also our girls are knuckleheads too. So that's kind of one thing we want to do in our next movie is where we rotate who's the straight man and who's the knuckleheads, and because we don't want anybody to be always the serious one or always the hero. We want everybody to be flawed and to be morons.
Yeah, I mean, some would say humanity or morons. I don't know if you'd agree, but I mean, I don't know.
Well, no, it's what George Carlin said. He said, look at the most average person,
exactly,
the most just mild-mannered average person, and realize that 50% of the world is dumber than that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of because so that's why we stopped trying to make movies and even worry about what this group of people will think. We kind of make movies for Gen X and millennials. Boomers aren't going to get our stuff. They're going to be offended by it. And Gen Z is going to be offended by it. We make movies for boomers and for Gen X and millennials, because millennials we didn't have a lot of hope for, but man, they came through. They're starting to figure stuff out, and they're getting a sense of humor and realizing that the world is a funny place. You don't have to take it so seriously.
Yeah. As Winston Churchill said, if you saw the average voter, you wish he or she couldn't vote. So this conversation would be apolitical, of course, but it just it's relevant to what you're saying. But the I mean, on a lighter note, I suppose, I just really need to ask you this seriously now. I'm not asking this for other people's reasons alone. I'm also seriously, I need to know about this distribution. You mentioned you filmed on streaming services. I really would love to know personally as well, just like how do you go about
it? Before Vinnie talks, I just want to say that I know nothing about once the movie's done being directed, And I kind of conceive things. I do a lot of the writing. Me and him split the writing, split the directing. But once it goes to editing, he's a magician. But then when it comes to distribution, I know nothing about these. But but Vinnie and through Wilky have set up through a Burning Bulb, which is our distributor.
All right,
Man,
you
those
don't.
guys.
All right, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I'll just stop my friend Luke there. But so Wilkie did help in the beginning. He got me in the direction of a thing called a group called Chip Taylor. But you know, you have to, and we can talk about this off the air. You've got to find a distributor that is fair, and there's a lot of charlatans because even before Wilkie showed up, there was a character named Tim Taylor. And so we joke, I don't know how funny this is over there in Europe or anything like that, but Luke and I always joke, and there's nothing against anybody that's religious or anything like that. But when when somebody leads that they're a Christian movie maker or if they're a Christian distributor, it's like, get the hell away from them, man. Like, let them just, oh my God. And they always say something like, hey, we got a movie in development with Kevin Sorbo, who used to play Hercules, and now he's like a big religious guy. But every one of them says that. So we were kind of led down this rabbit hole of this guy, and he,
which delayed release of The Hike for over a year.
Yeah, about 6 to 10 months. He's right about that. So like, because it was all bullcrap. And so he's from Chicago. I'm from Baltimore. We're street smart. He used to be a cop. I was a bounty hunter. I mean, I'm a taxi cab driver, which if you talk to them cats, I know people look down on them. That's some of the toughest guys and smartest guys about the city. So we knew that we were getting taken for a ride after a while. See, we were kind of nubile in the movie industry. So this guy let us down. And then Wilkie was like, hey, I'm got my eyes on you, because Wilkie's a fan of wrestling and he's a fan of our wrestling. And then we do some other entertainment too. And he saw some other stuff we were doing. And he vouched for us and got us in with the guy. And I like this guy, but the communication was a little slow. The cut wasn't so nice. And then when the movie has done so well and was seen by so many people, that another group said, hey, we're going to give you this slice. We're going to do DVDs and Blu-rays. And then I was like, hell yeah, we'll get on this train. And so we switched over to what's now Burning Bulb, which is a guy named Gary Lee Vincent, who is a book publisher, but he's got a lot of good connections too. Like George Romero's best friend and writing partner is still alive, and he goes to conventions with him all the time. So we've done horror, and I would say to anybody watching this, I'm not sure what kind of, this is a independent movie podcast is what I assume. Anybody who wants to do movies, I would suggest, this is what Luke and I did, horror and horror comedy is the easiest, because for some reason people watch horror movies and you don't need superstars. Like if you wanted to do a drama, nobody's going to watch a drama that doesn't have like Leonardo DiCaprio and Meryl Streep. If you're going to do a comedy, man, comedy is tough, because comedy is when you're shooting a movie, it's cold. Comedy is all about rhythm and momentum and playing off each other. And when you're going cut, do it again, cut, do it again, cut, do it again. I've seen so many comedies terrible. Sci-fi is tough because you need $80 gazillion to make it look good. So that's why I think horror is the best genre to get started in. And if you create a big pile of flaming shit, people will still like watching it, because people love bad horror movies, man. Yeah, so it's a good way to get out there.
Almost every night I watch a bad horror movie on Tubi or Plex, and I have yet to see one that I absolutely just hated. I mean, even if it's a bad movie, there's something about it that's either funny, I like, or it's so atrocious that it's amusing, but also horror fans are loyal.
Yes,
they are, and they consume and they buy merchandise, and they are hardcore fans. They aren't just like, there's no people out there that are, there's no comedy fans, comedy movie fans. There's no drama movie fans. There is so many horror conventions, horror, and like our real, we love horror movies, but we like the different ones. We're Evil Dead kind of guys. We like the horror comedies. We don't really like, I'm not big on
Shaun of
slasher
the
movies
Dead.
at all. Yeah,
Shaun of the Dead.
I'm not big on slasher movies, but even though we just made a slasher movie, but our movies are a little, as dumb as it sounds, our movies are a little deeper than that. We kind of do a take on, like Camp Smokey, the newest one, is a take on a slasher movie that kind of turns it on its head. But I love the horror fans because, like I said, they're so loyal. They, the people recognize me from these movies we, filmed in the mountains, and I'll be, playing music, and somebody will go, "You're the guy. You're that guy." And I was like, "I guess I'm the guy." Now give me some money.
Nice. That's nice to hear, I must say. And like, I mean, so you wouldn't be into things like The Exorcist, or no?
No,
You're
there's good
curious.
ideas there. So, there's good ideas there. There's good ideas with The Exorcist that where we could do things that really haven't been done. But then you also have because we like to put our own funk, our own flavor, our own kind of soul to things. Like people that don't really know movies and stuff will always watch our stuff, and they watch our stuff is like, well, why didn't you do this better? Why didn't you do this different? Well, we make the movies we want to make. They look like we want them to look. They are what they are. But The Exorcist, and kind of those movies have been kind of done to death with the same, like this newest Exorcist movie I watched a couple weeks ago, and it was awful. But we would do it disgusting and comedic. But also the Scary Movie 2 kind of covered that, where they parodied The Exorcist. But I think we could do an exorcism movie. Like I was watching this thing this kind of gets one of my points is like, I was watching this YouTube video where this guy says they can't make a good Blade movie for under $100 million. I was like, $100 million doesn't tell a good story. I could make a good Blade movie for $10,000. I could, you just got to tell the story. You can't make a good movie for under $100 million. It's ridiculous. I've seen plenty of great movies that were made for less than we spend on ours, and we don't spend much. But because money doesn't mean you're going to tell a good story. You can just look at everything that's been put out in the last couple of years. Money doesn't make a good story.
I'm banging my head against the wall. People are talking about Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon. I think those movies are they're you can't compare Killers of the Flower Moon to Taxi Driver, The Color of Money, The Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, Scorsese has made some great. That's one of the worst Scorsese movies, and the Osage people deserve a better story than that. That's a terrible story. That's from a white person's perspective. It's not from an Indian, Native American's perspective. And Oppenheimer's a bunch of nerds sitting around going, "Hey, we got some heavy isotopes there." I mean, it's so boring that the friggin' it bleeds to one scene to the other. They got to put fireworks like neutrons firing in a hadron collider or something just to wake you up, because Florence Pugh's naked in the beginning of it. Yay!
She's I'm gonna watch it now.
All you have to do is watch the first 45 minutes and she's out of there.
All right, cool. That's what I'll watch.
She looks good too.
Well, it sounds like that movie. You mentioned that there's no horror movie that you've seen, Luke, that you dislike. It sounds like that Exorcist movie you really disliked.
It wasn't a horror movie. It wasn't a horror movie.
Really? I've never seen it. Like, I mean, it wasn't horror.
Are you talking about? Wait a minute. Are we talking about the original Exorcist or the one that just came out with Russell Crowe?
The one that just came out.
Yeah.
Okay, with Russell Crowe.
Right? No, the one with It was an actual movie. It was like The Exorcist, the beginning, or Exorcist New Generation or something like that. Right, and it wasn't a horror. There was nothing scary about it. It wasn't a horror movie. It was a drama that happened to have girls being possessed. So that to me, that's not, and almost anything that Hollywood puts money into as far as horror movies are terrible. And so I like, there's very few, what I should say is horror movies I don't like. I should say very few low budget horror movies. I can't think of a low budget horror movie that I didn't like, but I can think of a lot of big budget horror movies that I absolutely, or horror movies that I actually just despise, and this was one of them.
Yeah.
A24, you like them movies, Luke?
Oh, I love the A24 movies.
Okay.
You know, the Mother and
Yeah. Ooh, Mother's
the
good. God, it's a
yeah.
good one.
And then
And
there was the one with the chick in the barn, and then the prequel with the chick in the barn. I can't remember the name of those
Pearl and
movies. Pearl and
X and
X were
Pearl and X, and then
yeah.
It Comes at Night. And one of my favorite ones is Lamb, which is, if you want to know where my mind is, I don't know if Luke, see that this is the thing. It's like, I'm more avant-garde. Like my humor is more like Mr. Show with Bob and David, and Luke is more like Rodney Dangerfield and
Mr. Bean.
Caddyshack and
Dude, there's nothing.
Revenge of the Nerds, that type of thing.
There's nothing funnier than Mr. Bean. I can watch Mr. Bean all day.
And then he's just pandering to you because you're in Britain. He doesn't like.
No,
Mr. Bean.
I watched
No,
Mr. Bean earlier. I watched it earlier, and I was laughing my ass off.
You're lying.
I
Anyway,
think I saw an episode where he throws a chair at someone. That's the only episode I ever saw Mr. Bean. But
Dude,
I was
you gotta
laughing,
watch.
like to be fair.
Yeah, you got to watch as many Mr. Bean anything Rowan Atkinson does, you got to watch. And when he tries to do serious parts, it's even better when you're trying to see Rowan Atkinson as a serious actor, and you're like, it just don't work. It's too funny. It's like trying to watch like Keanu Reeves in Dracula. You know, it's like after every sentence he says, you expect him to go, whoa, dude, it's Dracula. Whoa.
Oh, blood is so good, dude.
But it sounds like all this though for you happened quite naturally. Am I right in saying, like, the distribution side of things? Like, I mean, it just sounds like it all quite, it sort of happened quite naturally. It was sort of like, okay, I've got my eye on you. Wilky says, okay, here, here's this group. I mean, it sounds like it happened quite organically, and I'm just wondering, was it as easy or as not easy, but was it as organic?
Well, here's my take, and I'll let Luke rebut. But like, the thing about me and Luke is we have been in entertainment for 30 years, and we have our own kind of followings. So if we release a DVD, we know there's going to be at least 100 to 300 sales, which is probably different from some guy that's just picking lint out of his belly button in his mom's basement going, hey, I'm going to make a horror movie. And because of what Luke and I have done, I ran for governor, got some fans. Like our first makeup artist was because I ran for governor. Luke and I are pro wrestlers. Luke is a touring musician. I used to be a touring musician. We did a lot of comedy. We did a lot of comedy stuff on our YouTube channel. We were in the paranormal world for years and still are. We went and did an investigation last month for television. So, but because of that, we have amassed all these resources as human beings. We need a drag queen. We got one. We need some sexy burlesque dancers. We got them. We need fire dancers. We got them. Magicians, heavy metal artists. Everybody gives us their music for the soundtrack. So it's like we're this ball. So what I would say to people is get out of your house and do things. Like I just last week tried out to be Stanley Kowalski in Streetcar Named Desire, the play by Tennessee Williams, at a local theater gig, because I'm not performing right now. And I think it's important to be seen. I met a girl there a great actress, but she looks like her haircut. She looks like one of those anime girls. And first thing I thought of was like, if I need an anime girl that wears like the Sailor Moon outfit for something or for a gag, bada boom, bada bing, I got her. All she has to do is show up, and it's $1 million. So I think that Luke and we have another partner named Travis, who's a wrestler named El Gordo Gringo, which is Spanish for the fat American, for anybody that's not hip on Spanish. And we have some others too. They're always out and accumulating. So you have to, in this day and age right now, you have to have something of value besides just the talent. You have to have something coming along with you.
Well, an online following doesn't equal, like people think you got 5,000 friends on Facebook and 20,000 people follow you on YouTube, and they think that that's going to sell movies. Dude, people on Facebook and YouTube don't buy nothing. You know, your friends don't buy anything. It's people you don't know, and you have to reach them. But what
That's very true.
yeah, but yeah, to me, it's like a lot of other independent filmmakers who have never made a film, uh, get on us because they think we're doing it wrong. You know, they're like, you know, you got to make short films and enter short film festivals, and you guys are doing it all wrong. It's like, no, we went out and lived the world, and then when we decided to start making movies, we knew how to do it. And yes, you know, and people will say, oh, you use this camera angle wrong, it's blurry here, but like that was everything we did is how we wanted it done. But um, you know, that to me, that's kind of how our distribution happened and how everything kind of just rolled with us, is because we don't stop moving. If you know, if you stop moving, then you just nothing happens. So it's like, all right, well, you know, it's COVID, let's make a movie. COVID, you know, the movie's done. Okay, what do you want to do? We're waiting for it to be released. All right, let's make another one. But you also have to have, you know, asset management is what I always preach, is you got to know what you have. You know, I've had people come up to me, man, I got an idea for a movie we could do. See, we're in space. I was like, all right, but are we in space right now? All right,
Yeah,
how are
we
we going to
don't.
make a movie in space? We're not in space. You know, you got to.
Do you know anybody at NASA? Do you know Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos? And Luke's absolutely right. I mean, one reason we decided our series that we're making, the Smoky Mountain Chronicles, 6, possibly more horror comedies about the Great Smoky Mountains. We are surrounded by this natural beauty. Now, I'm from Baltimore. He's from Chicago. I guess you've heard of those places over there. But everybody, like Baltimore, The Wire, right? Homicide. Okay, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire. There's, you know, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. You know, New York has their stories. LA has their stories. Texas. So, but we are in this place with all these crazy cryptids and stories and folk magic and religious mythology and moonshine runners and people that were running and gangsters. Besides, like Illinois, some of the biggest gangsters in America were in Tennessee because they were moving oleo and effing moonshine up north and stuff during Prohibition. So we were like, we go outside the Great Smoky Mountains. I mean, our first movie, people were like, oh my God, I'm blown away by the cinematography. All you got to do is hold a camera up. God did the rest of it. You're just sitting there going, yeah, look at that. There's a sunset over the mountains. Everybody's like, holy shit, give him an Oscar. And it's nothing that we did. And so that's part of our resources too, is where we are. And being in Knoxville-ish area, if you've ever looked at a map, we're 12 hours from New York City. We're 12 hours from Chicago. We're 12 hours or less from Miami, New Orleans. We got the whole eastern seaboard we could drive to and shoot, and we have. And it's a short drive.
Well, I'm definitely going to ask you about that because I'm interested in sort of a sense of place. I mean, it just seems to me sometimes like it's just so important. But I mean, you know, so you got inspired by that. You got inspired by the environment. You got inspired by this history. And I'm just wondering, like, I mean, how did you like were there any figures that inspired you as well? I mean, obviously you mentioned the
Well,
80s horror comedies, but particular people individually?
I'll let
For me,
Luke take I'll let Luke take this question. I just want to say that the interesting thing about our movies is that it started off with some of, because we have a paranormal television show called Wrestling with Ghosts, and we have ran into a couple of things that could be purported as cryptids of the area. And Luke was the one that first told me about Spearfinger. What's exciting about that? Spearfinger is a Cherokee legend of a lady with a giant obsidian finger, and she pokes people in the liver, and she's a shapeshifter. And that's before we made that movie, there were no images of Spearfinger on the line except a couple of crude drawings. Now, if you type in Spearfinger, you'll see our girlfriend. Well, she's not really our girlfriend; she's married, but she's our partner in crime. You'll see our girl dressed up as Spearfinger, and she's native too, so nobody sweat that. But she's dressed up as Spearfinger, and that's all over the internet now. So it's kind of like we brought this legend from our area to the zeitgeist a little bit. So anyway, Luke, take it away. I didn't mean to talk that much.
as actual human beings that have inspired what I do, or what we do. Me and Vinny are on the same page with a lot of directors and movie makers. We're both big fans of Mel Brooks. We're both big fans of Sam Raimi, huge fans of Kevin Smith. If you watch our movies, The Hike, WJCAM, The Hike and WJCAM, which you can find them streaming everywhere. They are very Sam Raimi and Kevin Smith inspired. WJCAM is very, very Clerks. And The Hike, I like independent films. I like independent filmmakers. We're fans of Tarantino, who is from this, he's from Knoxville too. But as I said, I really, once you gave Sam Raimi more money, he started making worse movies. Once you gave Kevin Smith more money, he started making worse movies.
Oh man, now you're preaching. See, nobody says that stuff. That's absolutely true, man.
I would rather Kevin Smith be poor and make Clerks 3 instead of, being rich and making Clerks 3, because Clerks 3 was good, but it was nowhere near in the league of Clerks. And so I'm really a big, who really inspires me is anybody that makes an independent movie. Anybody that goes, that has the vision. Like we watched this movie called Baby Cat that's on Tubi. It's terrible. And I love it. I love every minute of this movie, and it's horrible. It's just every mistake you can make. You're wondering if the guy did it wrong on purpose, or if he just, didn't know any better, which he should have been able to say, cut, take two. But I can't watch this movie enough. I love this movie, and I'm a fan of the director. I don't even know who he is. I'm a fan of him.
He doesn't. They haven't done anything. That's the craziest thing. They released this movie. I was wanting to reach out to there's two main actresses, and they fucking kill it, man. But the rest of the movie is god awful. Like, all the bad guys are terrible. The fight scenes are terrible. They have moving green screens that look
unnecessary
awful.
green screening is
they had a green screen of a dumpster. It was like, you guys couldn't find a dumpster to shoot 5 seconds of footage in front of. You got to use, and it was moving. It was like, it was, and you're like, surely he can't be this bad. But it was so charming. But yeah, that's I don't know, that movie is wild. But like, yeah, I like a lot of the 70s directors and stuff too, like Scorsese and stuff. I love 70s movies. That's probably the biggest difference between me and Luke is I like chick flicks too. And I don't think you don't like chick flicks, do you?
No.
See, yeah, he's not. Luke hates women, is what it is. But yeah, that's anyway, that's basically what our influences probably are the most when we get together. Besides ourselves, I mean, we have our own flavor too. I think when people, Luke, how many times have you seen, or you've had a fan, a friend, family member, or a stranger watch one of our movies and they start the thing out with, I didn't know what the hell I was watching, but by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, genius, or whatever, or I got it at the end. I mean, we have our own ways of presenting stuff.
And what really inspires me to want to make movies, and the kind of movies I want to make is, I loved back in the 80s, early 90s, I loved video stores, independent video rental stores, where they had horror sections and comedy sections. And I would just go and pick the next movie off the shelf and watch it, no matter what it was. It was terrible. Still watched it, from the horror section and the comedy sections. And most of those movies were terrible, but I loved them. Like Ski Patrol and, these Demon Knight and all these movies that were just not great movies. They weren't great, well made, but I loved them. And I feel that, this generation is kind of robbed of going to the video store and just picking a movie off the shelf and watching it. So we kind of, and people would say, well, nobody's making these kind of movies anymore. And so again, we said, all right, let's go ahead and make those kind of movies, and hopefully people will discover them, and we've got real good streaming numbers. So obviously people are watching them and enjoying them.
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's wonderful. I really do, sincerely. But I must say, I am concerned. I am concerned about what you said earlier, because it's interesting about needing like, for anyone, because people find it difficult needing something to go with the foray into distribution. You mentioned that earlier, Vinny. And I'm just thinking,
Are you
how,
saying the momentum or having like some sort of like snowball to help you get into distribute? Is that what you mean?
oh, either or, either
Yeah.
or. How does one get that in the first place? How does one build it? Do you just keep at it and that kind of thing? Because a lot of
You
people are
Well,
probably
I
wondering.
think I think what Luke and I were lucky with is that we had followers because we had fans of our wrestling. We had fans of our music. We had fans of us being on television. We went out there, and Luke and I'm going to tell everybody this. Luke and I, we believe in fake it till you make it. I mean, act like we were the biggest movie stars or rock and rollers or whatever in the world, or wrestlers, and you're going to fool some people along the way. Some people are going to be like, you're not all that stuff. But that's the way that me and Luke got to where we are. And again, I don't have a Rolls Royce out front. We're at a place I know that is very enviable to a lot of people, but Luke and I want to go. Luke and I would like to have a little bit of pocket change to give our kids when we croak, that come from money. But again, money is not the driving force. But getting back to your question, there's a million ways to Mecca, so people are going to have to find their way on their own. And I always get frustrated, like when I listen to a podcast and it's somebody famous, and it's like, hey, I was at a diner, I was in Boulder, Colorado, and then the next thing I know, I'm starring in She's Having a Baby 3, and that's when and I was like, wait a minute, what happened? Did you serve somebody a steak or did you have an agent? Or I want to know. And they always leave that out. But the crappy thing is that there is no right answer for every individual listening. The only thing, and Luke can back me up on this, the only thing you can do is keep fighting. Wake up every day. I want to make a movie. I want people to see it. Work at it. Don't think about it. Don't wish. Don't sit there and pray to Jesus. Don't sit there and throw bones, goat ankles on a mat from Mongolia. Go out there and get your face out there, whether it's theater, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok. Constantly work and network. Luke and I didn't have to network because, to be honest, there's so many people in the film industry that I think are goofy human beings. I'm like, I don't like you. Get away from me. And that's why everybody's like, why aren't you in festivals and stuff? I was like, I don't want to, but some people may have to. Some people may have to network and get the elbow grease. And Luke and I, so far, haven't had to go that route, thank God. So, I think me and him both have a pedigree in entertaining people, and we've been successful at it. So,
yeah, most of our assets, and to what got us to the point of getting to distribution and getting to this point of making movie, most of our assets none of them were really in the film industry. Most of them were in other forms of entertainment or television. So I said wrestling, all this different stuff that kind of led to, but a lot of no's. I mean, there was, I said, we had signed probably at least 6 contracts with production companies or more that just went nowhere. We failed for 10 years. But this guy calls us up, says, hey, if you think you can do our this wrestling show on Fox better than we can, then you'd go ahead and do it. And so we did. And while and this is kind of where I'm going to go with this, is like, while the people that watched the show loved it, the wrestlers hated it because we were doing something. That's kind of the film industry, is you got to get out of you got to get out of the box of what film school is going to teach you. Film school it should be, for one thing, it's to learn cinematography, but honestly, there's nothing's going to beat just going out and getting experience in these things. And you keep broadening your experiences. We made The Hike. We did not expect that movie. We kind of made that almost as a demo movie, just to see if we could do it. And it's got millions of views. I mean, you have to just do it, and you have to take chances, and you cannot be afraid to. You can't be afraid to do it. You can't be afraid to put yourself out there. You can't be afraid to put your heart in it. Vinny hates his butt. He's got a flat butt. He put his butt front and center in WJHCAM.
What? I have a flat ass?
Yeah, I mean, your leg just go right up into your back, man.
I never noticed this before.
But you know, you have to be able to put, you have to, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And as a musician, the people that aggravate me the most are other guitar players, because they're like, they talk this technical junk that has nothing to do with the feeling of the guitar or the feeling of the
Yes.
music. The
And
movies, same thing. They're like, well, you broke the fourth wall here. Yeah, we meant to. You filmed behind you when you're not supposed to break this 360.
cross the
Okay.
line.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
cross line. Oh, sorry.
We
I
did
didn't
that on
know there was.
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know there was rules. You know.
And so, I mean, Luke is 100% right. And again, I may offend anybody listening. I don't, and that's not my intent. Luke and I have a hard time with film people because we don't give a shit about technology. Everybody that I see that is a filmmaker is obsessed with cameras, technology, this, that, and the other. Dude, we just got soul, baby. We just got funk. We bring the funk. If the camera shot looks like crap, we'll do our best to fix it. But I don't give a damn about that. I think at one point, Luke and I, if we get somebody that's cool, it's got a little bit of the shining on them, we'll take him on as a cinematographer, because that's probably our weakest attribute as filmmakers. But we have a lot of other things that like soul. Like people have sat there and said, hey, watch my thing. Technically, it looks fine. But I'm sitting there going, this is awful, because there is no soul. There is no, like Luke says, there is no take two. Why didn't we do this again? Why didn't we try to make this look better?
Well, then like
And
we're so stupid with stuff that like that we got this new beautiful 8K camera, and we're like, hey, let's set it. It goes to 60 frames per second. That's got to be way better than 24 frames a second. And then, you know, we had to film everything over again because 60 frames a second shouldn't exist.
yeah, I don't know. That's, I guess that, what is that for filming? That's for like filming race cars going in a circle. That's not. So I mean, we've made mistakes technically, and we will be the first to admit that. But I mean, every movie we have and everything we've ever done, there's soul into it. So there's a little bit of funk on it. So, um, you know, that's what I would just say is go out, get yourself a ragtag group of believers. I don't understand certain things that a lot of filmmakers do. Why do you make a short movie? I have no idea. It's practice, I guess. Go out and just make the effing film. One of the things that I heard somebody say is from film, who was in film school, their professor actually was right on this, said, you've got 25 terrible movies inside of you. Everybody does. Make them, start making those now. Get them out of your system, learn, and then get to the point to where it's like, oh, you're making good movies. The other thing I think is great is I just listened to Werner Herzog's great book, and anybody who's a film person needs to listen to his audiobook. Don't read the book, because you got to listen to Werner going, there I was sitting on a ridge looking down on this desolate, you know, the accent of Werner Herzog is wonderful. But he said if he had a film school, this is the only two things he would teach. And I love this. He would teach people how to break into locks, and he would teach people how to forge documents. He goes, everything else you'll learn on your own. And there's another quote that says, to make an independent movie is to commit a crime. And I love that quote. And there's so many times that we have actors who are shell-shocked going, can we be here? And I was like, sure we can. And then Luke and I are just like, look at each other like, yeah, we gotta film fast. But you know, nobody get hurt. Don't put anybody in danger. But you know, you safety first, and we're not joking when we say that. However, we're artists, you know, kick a fucking hole in the sky, you know, to do, you know, worry about it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's reassuring. People will find that reassuring about there being no set methods for getting attention, for getting distribution. You know, you said like, oh no, this would be a terrible thing to say, but it's the truth. I actually think a lot of people will find that reassuring, to be honest with you. The less rigid something is, the better it is. So yeah, and that's just wonderful advice, really, to be honest, from both of you. Now, before we finish up, I just want to know, what can people expect from you soon? You got so many things boiling to the surface in your filmography. So I'm just wondering what things can people look forward to? What do you have coming up on the streaming
What's what
platforms?
what's weird is that we had a set plan of how we were going to make these movies out, and we've got so many other ideas for movies that we actually had to sit down after we made the third movie, which is called Camp Smokey, and sit there and go, all right, we have to actually decide which of these 10 other movies we actually want to make right now. So we started scripting out, but Camp Smokey just it's had a harder time than the others on streaming services getting, because like it was supposed to be on some of the bigger ones, Tubi and Plex and Amazon. It was supposed to be on there in October, and it just never showed up, even though it was on
Well,
their
I know,
list.
I know it's because they had a holiday load of movies, is what I've been told. And now
Right.
at Camp Smokey and another movie that we co-produced called Vinnie's Fantastic Rock and Roll Adventure last week got on a thing called Reveal TV, which you can watch. You can have yourself. It's free. REVEEL.
Yeah,
REVEE. I went to
yeah.
public high school, and so anyway, but like Reveal TV, you can have yourself a big and funky filmography of, or a film festival with 4 of our movies. But you know what he's saying, what we got to do is Luke has tremendous ideas, and we're actually saving some ideas of his for when we have a little bit bigger budget and we get some sort of better deal in place for like actually trying to get a couple of these movies out. But in the meantime, we're concentrating on the Smoky Mountain Chronicles, and each movie is different. The first one is like a psychological cryptid whodunit. The second one is a comedy drama akin to Clerks and Dogma and Evil Dead. The third one is a slasher movie that's a comedy that is also a lot like I Am Legend and Ted. So if you know any of those movies, and then the next one is going to be our comedic take on The Office, Maximum Overdrive, Space Odyssey 2001, and The Legend of John Henry. And it's based in the city of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is, if you watched Oppenheimer, if we said that before, that's where they made the atom bomb. So there's some horror elements in our region coming out of that. And then, like Luke said, after this, we have a million what we think are good ideas. They may not be good ideas to anybody else, but we have at least a bunch of ideas. We're like, holy crap, that'd be a lot of fun to make. So that's what's coming down the pike as far as the movies are concerned.
Yeah, because I still want to make a full-blown John Woo action movie featuring people that can't fight.
Drag
I
queens.
just, yeah, drag queens that can't fight. I just think that sounds like the best thing ever. An action movie with people that can't fight is just, it sounds like a great challenge to me. And you know, the slow motion shots, doves flying everywhere. That's going to be great.
Yeah, I can envision that actually, just someone throwing a bottle of water on someone, a few
Yeah.
paintbrushes. It's lovely, really, to be honest with you. I can already see it in my mind. But look, I mean, seriously, I just think that the you know, the advice is excellent. The story is excellent of how you both got on the streaming platforms. Reveal TV, that's I haven't heard of that. That's interesting. I don't know how I haven't heard of it. That's interesting. No, that's so you got on Reveal TV. You're on
Yeah,
Plex.
the reveals seem to be more of a, like, it was like a live TV thing, like a live, you know, where you can get live TV out of LA or live TV out of New York. And then they just started promoting independent movies. Like I looked through all their movies, and there's some bigger movies on there, but most of them are, it's a platform now that looks like for independent movies.
I
So if
think so
anybody,
too.
you know, I think if you make an independent movie, I would call maybe, you know, Burning Bulb distribution. The guy's awesome. He's a great guy. He'll work with anybody, and he could probably, you know, work with you and get, and you know, if there's a platform like Reveal and like Tubi, who loves independent movies. I mean, this is the best time ever, because we couldn't get on Netflix with these movies because the specs. We couldn't get on Shutter because the specs. And you know, even Amazon, who does have 1 or 2 of our movies on there, they said that they weren't taking independent movies anymore because, you know, there's too many of them and the quality
They're
wasn't
not
good.
taking they're not taking documentaries anymore, is what they said.
Yeah, but
They
you know,
they still
so
take independent movies, but
yeah, but you have a platform that is like, hey, send us your movie, then yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? You know, I think everybody should, you know, talk to our guy. What was his name again at Burning Bulb?
Gary, and just reach out to him, send him an email. He is a nice guy. So the other thing I would say too that is good for filmmakers is physical media is making a comeback. You're hearing a lot of murmuring about people saying streaming services are ripping them off. And dude, Luke will tell me, we were over there last week to write the next movie for a session where we were writing. He says, you need to see American Movie. Have you seen it? No, I haven't seen it. Took him 10 minutes to find out where we could watch it. And I still think it was like $6.99. So you're paying for streaming, and then you got to pay a pay-per-view fee on top of this thing you're paying for. It's like, what in the world? So lo and behold, people are starting to buy their DVD collections back and stuff, at least in the United States. I don't know about over there. Because
there's a huge market now again for VHS. They don't even want they just want the VHS box, to look at it. It's real weird what the market's doing. That people want VHS and they don't want Blu-rays, they want DVDs. I have Blu-ray and DVD copies of our movies for sale at my music shows, and I will sell the DVDs out like that, and then it takes 3 more weeks to sell out of Blu-rays.
So, and that's, if you're making movies, this is for the filmmakers. Fans, shut up, don't turn it off. But if you're filmmakers, that's the best profit margin by far, is selling DVDs. Selling a t-shirt, you make 25% of your money, and I'm not going to tell what the markup is on a DVD, but when somebody buys a DVD, they're really helping the cause. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Well, thank you, both of you, and I enjoyed this, and it's been fascinating really hearing this and hearing about how you got into this world. So, I mean, anything else you want to leave people with before we end this? Any words of wisdom, any words of nuttery, anything at all? Just like, just seriously. I mean, the world's your oyster.
If you want to follow us, Big and Funky Productions on YouTube has a lot of videos, our ghost stuff, a lot of trailers for our movies, ASMR billiards, video game bullshit. There's just a lot of stuff going on over there. Comedy skits, and also bigandfunkyproductions.com is where you can go and see all of our social media links. You could follow us and just fangirl it up. And not only are we doing a movie this year, we're also still doing Wrestling with Ghosts, which is our paranormal show. So, and that informs a lot of our movies, is what we discover when we're doing the soft science of paranormal research. So that's all I got, brother. What do you got?
All right. We, just so everybody knows, we are not experts. We are not classically trained. We know that we are knuckleheads. We embrace the fact that we are knuckleheads. So, but when you embrace that, you embrace any challenge that comes at you. People, said, you can't, if you think you can do better, you come and do it. Well, then we said, okay. And we went and did it. Anytime somebody challenges you to do something, take the challenge. We know we are probably way further than we should be. I mean, we're a couple 48-year-old idiots, but we're doing it. And I think more people, especially, they don't teach us don't teach us in film school, son. And they don't teach you to get out there and do it. Experience will beat your education anytime and any day of the week, even though your education is incredibly important, but you can have both. It doesn't have to be one or the other. You can have both experience and education, but experience is so important, because you don't, like, what they say in Good Will Hunting, is like, you could tell me what's every inch of the Sistine Chapel looks like, and you tell me what it smells like. It's just, you got to get out there and get experience, and don't be afraid to fail. Actually look forward to failure, because you'll learn better lessons from failure.
It
failure
depends
is the best teacher.
If you're in the Sistine Chapel, it's going to smell like sliders and sport peppers. But if somebody else is in the Sistine Chapel, it may smell like something else. The other thing is,
hey, shut up. Failure is the best teacher.
I think
Failure is the best teacher.
Mrs. Claiborne in my 3rd grade class was really good too. But she used to wear pencil line skirts. She was a great teacher. But
is she dead? Is she still alive, or is she passed away?
I don't know. She's older now, so okay. Who knows? She's probably so. But if you want to watch any of our films, we got The Hike on Tubi, WJHCAM, which stands for WG Jesus H Christ AM. And then we've got Camp Smokey on Reveal TV right now, and also a movie we co-produced and starred in called Vinnie's Fantastic Rock and Roll Adventure, which is a Route 66 movie, which was pretty awesome too.
The Hike and WJCM are both on Tubi. They're both on Plex. They're both on Real TV. Is it?
There's a whole bunch of, just, you can look them up. They're all over.
I'd like to tell you that you could stream The Hike on Amazon, but it was not the final copy that they have. So you watch it on Tubi. Yeah, avoid the Amazon one. But you could also buy the DVDs, which is cool to have.
Yes.
Yeah. You're doing a good thing, as you mentioned, if you buy a DVD. And you know, I'm glad that it's making a comeback. If it is, I from what I hear from you and other people, is that, yeah, so, you know, hopefully here it is too. I do not know. I'm not in the loop as much as I should be about that, but I'm glad to hear that. So thank you very much indeed, both of you, and have a good evening. What time is it over there?
Evening.
4:47.
It's tea time. Is it tea time?
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's tea time. It sounds like tea time.
Sounds like we'll have some biscuits and some tea and some bangers and mash.
Yeah, those things are addictive, actually. But thank you very much indeed, and thank you.